It's time to get real with Lady Ray. Real talk, real conversation. Real people, real answers. Real talk, real conversation. So let's get real with Lady Ray.
Tonight, I am humbled to be joined by an icon in South Africa. A woman who was part of the reason why I am able to enjoy the democratic freedom of South Africa. Her story, although tragic, played a pivotal role in the freedom that South Africans have received against the apartheid regime. Good evening, Mrs. Sithole, and welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you very much, Lady Ray. I'm also excited to be here.
Thank you. This evening's discussion is not going to be one that's really easy. Some may even switch off at some point. But before we get there, tell me something about Mrs. Sithole that I won't find out if I try to Google you.
That makes me laugh, you know. Actually, I'm very humble, and I would like to be around people, and I'm also natural. Yeah. So being a natural is like, you know, everything that you do, to me, it's like it's spot on. Even if you are a person who doesn't like people, I make sure you love people.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know you make a good cup of tea.
Oh, yes. A little bit of water, a strong tea bag, and a lot of milk. You know, remember, my grannies did not have cows, so I love milk.
Okay, so you're making up for lost time.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. If you know somebody who's going to enjoy this conversation, please do share the link. I'd like you to also subscribe to the channel. If you want to stay abreast with what's happening on the channel, remember to click the notifications icon. I want to hear your thoughts and comments, so share your thoughts in the comments section. Also, lots of likes. Tonight we're talking about reverse racism. Note, I am not saying reversed racism, but reverse. To lay the foundation for tonight's conversation, I'm going to define the word reverse. The word reverse is defined as a complete change of direction or action. This conversation in no way aims to perpetuate the opposite of racism that has already been experienced. However, it is to invoke a consciousness that the possibility of living in a time and space where racism does not exist. And together, Mrs. Sithole and I will talk to this topic. Is there a possibility that we can reverse racism? Mrs. Sithole, when I say the word racism, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
You know, the first thing that comes to my mind is separation, humiliation, disgrace, no respect, you know, because at the end of the day, racism is something that you cannot really define. It comes in many forms. Yes, we may call it discrimination, you know, all these sorts of names, but racism is cruel. Why do we still have people who are racist? That's my question. And I often find that, why do we have to be discriminated? It's because of our strength, color, being strong? I don't understand. But it does not make sense at all.
Racism speaks of disrespect. So researchers have found that children as young as 4 show signs of racial bias, suggesting that they pick up cues to act intolerant from the adults around them from a very early age. Do you think a child is born racist, or they become racist because of what parents impose upon them, consciously or unconsciously?
You know, naturally, there is no one who is born racist. The surroundings that are there, they're actually teaching children racism. Not like parents. Sometimes you find children are playing there, maybe you've gone to a doctor, and then because you are seated there, children are playing there. Besides playing, I would say, maybe a black child would go to a white child and they play. Yes. And that white child will respond by playing too. What is the expression between two parents, the black and the white? Obviously, the white would go like,
yes.
like trying to reprimand the child. But we forget one thing. Children are innocent. They don't see color at the end of the day. But we as parents, we usually say, no, you mustn't at school, you mustn't play with black kids, and what's your friend's name, whatever. Why are you doing that?
Yes.
Because the child doesn't know anything. All you can do is to embrace the child not to see color.
Yeah.
That's it. Because they don't see color. Why are you enforcing color on the children? Yeah. It doesn't make sense at all.
So as parents are teaching their children how to be racist.
They do. Because sometimes you find that your child, as I'm black, my child will bring something home that belongs to a white child.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Because the child will tell me, oh, it's Tamia's toy. Am I going to clap the child? Or am I going to reprimand the child saying that you mustn't take things that don't belong to you? You must take it back.
Yes.
You did not use any color. That's it. We should do the same, even if it's vice versa.
Yeah.
We should just say, don't things that don't belong to you, take it back. And try and make the child understand that it's not yours, it's hers. Leave it there or give it back to him and say sorry. Yeah. That's what we should do, because we need leaders, not people who will be dwelling on color.
The next set of questions may be a little bit personal, but I think in order to get perspective for where we're going in the conversation, for those viewers who don't know who you are, we'll just ask you a little bit about how your personal experience have affected you as a woman in South Africa, having experienced racism and having to deal with racism still in our day and age. So as a child, what is your earliest memory of racism that you experienced for yourself?
Well, I wouldn't say exactly myself. I remember when my granny or mother would say, as I went to town, I met this boy and he just pushed me on the street. Remember that during the apartheid era, if you are a black person, you have to shift for a white person, even if you are on the pavement. Yes. So I think my granny did not do that, and then that man said a big giant poor man just pushed me aside. But my granny was hurt. She was hurt. So unfolding that to us, it was like, I don't understand what they're talking about, We knew apartheid as a word, yes, not action. But only as time unfolds, as children at school would share, my mother or my father was caught because he did not have a passbook, so he was arrested, and then, something like that. It did not make sense at all. How can you be arrested walking on the street?
Yes.
No, then the other child would explain, no, she didn't have a bus. What is a bus? The identity book that you have to show to the police when they say bus. Bus. Is bus a bus of passing, or what do you mean? It's a book, it's called bus, and I remember people used to call it Dompas. Yes. Yeah, I knew the name Dompas, but it did not make sense so much, I knew a little bit about apartheid, only as I grew, because hearing stories from different other children, this happened to my father, my mother. Then I came to realize that, oh, no wonder we are staying here in Soweto. We are not staying in town. So people are going in town just to work, and they come back home in Soweto. Why are we separated? Because they can easily stay where they are working or the surroundings. Why do they have to travel? Well, I only asked myself that question and did not get answers. But that made me very worried. Why? Yes, I know there are white people, there are black people, but our parents are working there and we are staying here. Why don't they stay there next to work? Or at work, they must build rooms or flats for them to be nearby. Then, only then I understood that, oh, that means we are separated. Whites are there, blacks are here, and blacks are working for white people. Why don't white people come here and also work here in Soweto? You know, I had so many questions, but I had less answers. Only then I understood that this is apartheid that they've been talking about. I did not really get it, you know. And then as time went by at school, you know, would learn Afrikaans as a language, then that was okay. Yes. The rest of the subjects were being taught in English. But in 1975, no, we were told that, no, things have changed. Next year, 1976, we are going to learn most of the subject in Afrikaans. Even though Yara is Afrikaans, I just said, Afrikaans is very difficult. Yes. You know, it's only easy when you speak it mixed with these other languages, like in Sosital, Gangsterism, then it's okay. You know, because you can mix it. Yes. But the Saverian, we are going to fail. No ways. I just said no ways.
So is that where you think, as a child, because you were still a child, you directly experienced racism, even though it may not have been physical racism? That was your first direct experience with racism because you were being forced to do something that you didn't want to do.
Yes, and we knew that Afrikaans belongs to our oppressors.
Okay.
That was another issue. Yes, our mothers are working there, they are getting less paid, you know, everything doesn't make sense. That means we are being oppressed.
But that was all, because when you say oppressors, that was all oppression that you experienced through somebody else's story, through the stories that were told by the older people. It was not something did you feel oppressed as a child, or did you only feel the oppression because your grandmother told you about it or your auntie told you about it?
You know, the sadness from my grandmother's face.
Yes.
It really touched me. You know, I felt like, well, it's a pity I'm young. I haven't experienced going to town. Yes. Remember, most of the things were done by our parents, our grandmothers, not us directly. Yes. So I felt that pain, you know, like she wouldn't be so angry. You know, that means that really got into her. Yes. Yeah, I also felt, I would say half of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, having shared that pain and having gone through the experience of watching your 12-year-old brother, who was 2 weeks away from turning 13, die at the hands of your oppressor, it must have created a certain level of hatred. But listening to you speak, even before we sat down for this conversation, I don't get a sense of hatred for what you've experienced from your oppressors. Having gone through all of that and where you are now, how does that direct the way you speak to our younger generation? Because they are the future leaders and they have to be able to experience pain but also move forward. So has your experience caused you to speak from a point of hatred, or what has it done for you as a person?
Actually, I couldn't be hateful. All I was very angry. Angry and hatred are two different things. I know as time goes on, being angry makes you to feel hate. But I just told myself, well, it happened, and maybe it happened for a reason. Let me just turn this thing over. Let me take my pain and turn it to good. Yes. By forgiving. So by talking to different kinds of people, children, adults, presidents, you name them, I always make sure that I remind them where I am coming from, and not only me, but all of us, where we are coming from and where we are going to. So I took the anger and said, well, I have to turn this around because I can't be angry forever. Yes. Whether I get answers or not. I have to be to forgive, and also show the positive side of bad things. Yes, it happened. I was angry. I couldn't be hateful. I don't want to tell a lie. But I was angry because I had so many questions and less answers. But I said, because I can't find answers, let me turn this over. Let me take the anger, put it this way, opposite me, and take good things opposite me. And let me challenge the two. So I found out that it's better to forgive because I cannot live the rest of my life being angry. Well, it was not a good way. It was not a good road. It was not a good path. But I had to make it, like tell myself that this, what I'm doing is right. I don't care who says what. Forgiveness just opened my mind. I just saw things in a different form. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, we were hurt, but let's try and take it in another form.
Yes.
Yeah, that helped me a lot, forgiving. So when I speak to children, I make sure I go back, talk about what happened to them, so that they have those different emotions. Some would cry, some would just stare at me, some would just look like, no, this is unbelievable. I am doing that so that they must know how people suffer out there, but in return, they don't pay revenge by doing the same. Instead, they become good citizens to shape our leaders. By the way, you cannot instill hatred or bad things on their kids because we want them to be better leaders of tomorrow. So even it doesn't matter how hurt you are, you have to correct it by being faithful and doing the right thing, because we have to groom them in the light, not in the darkness.
Do you think that it's possible for us to reverse racism? Not forget that it happened, but to get to a point where we embrace our differences, but also see each other as equal, where we can understand there's nothing wrong with being different. I can understand that I'm different and enjoy my difference. But can I reverse and get back to a position where racism does not exist at all?
Yes, we can. We can. Only if we as human beings tell ourselves that bad things happen. And who said life was fair? If we ask those questions, then we are going to go back and do the right thing. Why do we have to hate? Why do we have to point fingers at other peoples because they're different from us? Like, for instance, even if you plant flowers and vegetables randomly, have you ever in your lifetime seen a rose said, hey, you carrots, I don't want you next to me? Even though they are not talking.
Yes.
But they will talk because roses are picky, carrots they groom from the ground and only the leaves. But we have never seen that. Another example is a rainbow. Rainbow has 7 colors, but have you ever seen one color shying away from the other color? So that difference is important. It's an example of us as people. But because we can think, we can decide, we can pick and do choices, we think we are better. But nature is, there must be a difference amongst us. So as people, why do we really dwell on color?
So, nature teaches us that our difference is unique and we should accept it. Today we're asking the question, is it possible to get to a position of reverse racism? Not to a position of where we change it from white on black to black on white, but rather to a position where racism does not exist at all. I pose the question, were we ever in a position where we were not racist? Ponder on this A child is not born racist, but can be taught to be racist. If you're enjoying the content of today's conversation, please do leave your likes and comments. I know you know somebody who needs to hear this conversation, so do share the link. Subscribe to the channel and stay up to date with what's happening by clicking the notifications icon. I'm speaking to Mrs. Sithole about the question, reverse racism. And I have a question to ask. Would it be a fair accusation if one blamed the parents of children who are born post-apartheid and post-slavery for the fact that racism still exists in our society?
You know, I think even if it's like that, yes, people suffered before now. They were called Kafirs, they were called what, all sorts of names. And even in our black society, we still do that. Hey, I don't want to be married by Mazulu. Hey, I don't want to be married by Northern Sotho people because they are this and this and this. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because we are grooming our children to be better leaders with respect for other cultures. So why do we keep on picking things that happened like in my grandmother's era and bring it now? Yes, it happened there for that time and it suited that time. Yes. But now we are supposed to learn from that. That was not good. Why are we still doing it? Why are we still pointing fingers at other cultures or ethnic groups? At the end of the day, we are the people and we have the right to live on this planet like any other person. Yes. And we need to respect our cultures. It doesn't matter whether would say Zulus like to fight. Yes, they like to fight, but they do marry other cultures. So what's wrong in that? That means it is shifting a little bit. It's a milestone.
Yes.
Bit by bit, it will come together, and we will stop pointing fingers to other ethnic groups or cultures.
So it's when, would we say that it's when parents learn to understand? Because I sometimes think, let's go here. I sometimes think what happens with parents is they haven't dealt with the consequences of what racism or apartheid may have done to them. So they speak about it to their children. And there's nothing wrong with speaking about it, but it's how we speak about it. Do parents speak about it from a point of hate? Do they speak about it from a point of anger? And then they impose on children a hatred that they didn't have, or they start thinking, I need to get revenge for my dad because my dad experienced this, or they start having a payback mentality. So have you ever experienced where you speak to children of either race, of where they say, my dad experienced this and I think it's my duty that somebody needs to pay back or somebody needs to pay for what my father experienced?
Well, in my mind, I would say that doesn't work. We should we should actually take that bad thing that happened, yes, and modify it to be something better. Not like taking good from bad. If you take good from bad, then you know what you must do. Don't just dwell on bad things and you do nothing about it. Instead, you think your children are going to fight your battles.
Yes.
You have to deal with it. And when you talk to your children in a way of teaching and emphasize that must never ever happen again.
How did you deal with that with your children when you told them the story about your experiences? What was that conversation like?
Actually, I never actually sat down and talked to my children. You know what I did? Whenever I'm going to give a talk, I would take them with, so that they could be part and parcel of the audience that I'm going to talk, for them to understand better. Because sitting down with them, I've never ever done that. But I would also come along with them. They must be part of the audience, and that's it.
And what were some of their responses when they would listen?
They don't even say a word. They don't even say a word. They just keep quiet, and then, well, my son Who should say at school, they said, hey, is that your mommy? We heard that it's your mommy. I said, no, it's not my mom, it's my aunt, and I don't live with her in the same house.
Did you not want to be famous? So you take your children to your speaking events. At no point did they say, Mommy, how do these people pay you back? How did you get revenge? Somebody's got to pay for your brother's death. Did they never ask you those things?
Not at all. They usually don't talk, they keep mum. I don't know whether, I would actually not even see their feelings, see their reaction. They just keep mum and continue as if nothing has happened. So in my mind, I would say, maybe they heard how I was talking. To them, it's like, well, it happened, but mum is fine, it looks fine. Something like that. Yeah. But they never even talk about it.
So what I'm taking from this is that how a parent reacts to a situation directly affects how a child will respond in the future. Because we looked at how what happened to your grandmother made you feel. You felt that the apartheid regime was your oppressor. You were able to own that because of the pain that you saw on your granny. The same way you don't show any hatred to those that are responsible for your brother's death, your children don't feel a need to pay back revenge. So the question that we're asking is, can racism be reversed? In terms of, can it get to a position of no longer existing? If I look at just the conversation that we've had with those two different eras, in terms of what you experienced with your granny and what your children are experiencing with you, I beg to make the bold statement that reverse racism is a possibility. However, it is based on how a parent chooses to raise their child.
That's true. Yes, that's true, because I did not sit down with my children and told them about what happened. Instead, I took them to mix with the audience, okay? Maybe if I would have seated down with them and told them, maybe I would be angry and feel the other way. So I was also afraid to talk to them. So what I did is just to bring them along, to be part of the audience, and then they will take it from there.
Yeah. So rather than perpetuating racism upon racism, you left them at a position to make the decision on their own, but also gave a template.
Yes.
Because you didn't speak from a position of hate. Yes. So this conversation has been amazingly enlightening. I think a lot more different than what a lot of people would have expected. Most people would have expected to hear hatred for somebody who's lost a brother at the age of 12 and had to watch police shoot him, but to hear the kindness and the gentleness with which you speak. So before I say goodnight, and thank you for the privilege of your time, what would you say to every mom and dad who is watching this show, who is raising a future global leader with regards to racism and how they view the world and how they embrace their difference? What advice can you give them to raise leaders who respect difference?
Parents, children are innocent. And at the end of the day, they need to find themselves. So by you imposing all these bad vibes, it's not going to work. What if in return, the child will not even do what you told him or her to do, will do things otherwise? You are going to get hurt. And for what? Instilling hatred doesn't work for anyone. So remember that nobody chose to be who they are, period. Live with it, do something better with your life, forget all these bad emotions.
Awesome. Awesome words. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. It's been such an honor to have you with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed the show and enjoyed this conversation, please do subscribe to the channel. Leave your likes and comments below. And to stay up to date with the content on this channel, click the notifications icon. Remember to share it with somebody who'd learn from the conversation that we had here tonight. Let's get everyone having real conversations, asking real questions, and dealing with the real answers that will come from within themselves. The late Mr. Nelson Mandela said these words: "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." Good night, and don't forget to connect with me again next week as we continue to have real conversations, ask real questions, and deal with the real answers that will come from within yourself.